course. Alright, so to kick off this course, we're going to jump right into designing our first mobile UI. Now this is really exciting, and I do want to mention that you don't really need to have much background info on Figma. So if this is your first project, you should be able to still follow along. But otherwise, if you do want to learn some of the introductory things to Figma, I do recommend that you check out my other course. The other course is called An Introduction to Figma. In that course, I go over a lot of the basics such as frames, creating shapes, and exploring some of the tools and panels that we have access to in Figma. But if you want to jump right in and learn as we go, you can also do that. First things first is that I recommend that you head on over to figma.com and set up an account there if you haven't done so already. Once you're set up and you're in Figma, then you're ready to jump into this course. So for our first project here, we're going to be working on a mobile UI for this company called Clean Kangaroo. We're going to imagine that we have a client who's given us this project. Typically, a client will come up with something similar where they'll give you their name, what they do, as well as what pages they require for the mockup. So we're going to really treat this as a mockup that we're going to design for a client, which happens to be this company called Clean Kangaroo. Super cool. Now, before I jump in here, I do want to mention that you have access to these requirements in a PDF in the resources. So go ahead and download them from the resources of this lesson. You'll also find the Figma link to get to this file in case you want to actually go ahead and copy it from here into your Figma app. So feel free to download that right now, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the requirements. So let's see what this company does here. Clean Kangaroo is an on-demand laundry delivery service. Clean Kangaroo lets users sign up and request to have their laundry picked up and dropped off at their location. So essentially, it's a laundry delivery service. That's super cool. Let's see what they have in terms of brand assets. So it looks like they want us to actually come up with a color scheme. They don't have one right now for their project. And then they want us to also find and assign fonts to the project, which is cool because we're going to go over color and typography in this course. And then I see the only thing they've provided us is the logo, which again, you can check resources to find it. Now, let's see what their mockup requires in terms of the pages. So first page is a sign up / login page with a button for a tutorial. Sign up options will be email and password, and then a sign in with Google option as well. Pretty cool, pretty typical for a login page. Tutorial page to explain how it works in 3 steps. Cool. We also need a page to add a payment card. Pretty straightforward. A map page to let users set their pickup and drop off address. Okay, that's pretty cool. Looks like there's a typo in here, so I'll go ahead and fix that right there really quick. Cool. A way for users to call for laundry pickup from a local laundry service of their choice and show them the pricing. Okay, sounds pretty cool. I think this is going to be our main page from what I see. And then we have a profile page to see all of the users' profile options as well as log out. Pretty cool, pretty straightforward right there. And lastly, a page to show users their current / active and also their past laundry services and how much they were charged. Makes sense in case the users want to go back and see how much their service costs and all of that. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into setting up our wireframes and then starting our Figma file to do the mockup for this client. Alright, so in the last lesson, we went over the app requirements for the mockup we're working on here, Clean Kangaroo. And I've actually sketched out what I think I want to include in the wireframe, and you'll find that in the resources for this project as well. So from the last lesson, if you downloaded the resources, go ahead and open the Clean Kangaroo mockup sketch PDF. If not, go ahead and download the resources and then go ahead and open this file. So once you open it, you'll find this little drawing that I did just using pen and paper to kind of create a wireframe. And this is what we call a wireframe in UI or user interface design. Essentially, it's just kind of like a blueprint for our mockup before we actually jump in and design it and spend a lot of time designing without knowing exactly what the blueprint for the application is going to look like. So essentially, that's why we do a wireframe usually before we jump in and start our mockup. Now, if you already had some ideas for this project and you started sketching them, feel free to follow along and maybe make some tweaks along the way based on your own design. If not, we're going to be using this wireframe right here as well. And we're going to refer to this sketch a lot throughout designing this mockup. So definitely have the file handy, as well as your app requirements, which again are in the resources folder. So really quickly, let's go through the pages here that I've set up. Now you'll see they're numbered according to what the client here has given us. 1 through 7, and all the pages are covered here. We have a sign up login page, and pretty straightforward with all the requirements that they have. Sign up with email, sign up with Google, and then we have a little tutorial pop-up. I'm thinking about just putting this tutorial right on top of the login page and then just doing a little pop-up with a blurred background. We're just going to do a payment card so they can add their credit card. And then if you go to the next page here, now I've created a page here for the user to set their address and find their address to set for their laundry delivery service. This is our main/request page. Now from here, there will be a map of where they put their delivery address at. They can always tap this to go to this page and then update their maybe new address if at any point they change their address. Then down here we have a laundry request tab that essentially is always open. It will show you the stores nearby. I'm thinking about doing some sort of maybe like scroll or swipe left and right to go to different to view different cards for different stores. You can see what I think we should include in here down where it says A. So I've kind of made more of a detailed drawing of what I think should be included in this store card here down here. So we'll have an image of the store maybe, a store name, $1 per item, what their turnaround time is, so how long they think they will take to do the laundry service, and then their rating. So for the navigation structure here, this is how users will switch between the three main pages here, which is the main page, the profile page, and then the past or the services/past request page here. I've decided to go with a tab bar navigation. So that's essentially where you see you have a tab at the bottom and then you can go to multiple pages, and depending on which one's selected, it will take you to the correct page. If you use the Instagram app, for example, they use a tab bar system where you have options in the bottom here and then you switch between different pages. This is pretty common in a lot of mobile applications. And so since we only have really 3 main pages here, we're going to stick to using a tab bar. And then down here, it will just tell you number 1, or the tab option number 1 will take you to services, which is page 7 right here. This is where they see their past laundry services. And again, a more detailed version of what I think should go in this kind of list view here would be the store name, the date and time that they placed the laundry service order. And then maybe depending on the status of this order, we can show it over here. So if it's already been delivered, we can say delivered. If it's currently being washed or dried, we can show that over here as well. And then page 2 will be the main page over here, the laundry page. And then the third page will go to a profile page. From here, we thought we can update the address. We can allow them to edit their name, email. They can go to their payment method from here. There's a little support button in case they want to get in touch with the Clean Kangaroo team, let's say. And then a logout button, which is pretty typical on a profile / All right, so I think we're ready to set up our new project. So let's head on over to Figma here. If you're in the desktop app, it's super easy to create a new file. You just go up here and press the plus sign here. I'm going to open a new file. Let's go ahead and rename it to Clean Kangaroo, since that's the project we're working on here. And now we have a fresh new canvas right in front of us. What I'm going to do is go ahead and change the background color and make it slightly darker, just to kind of help create some contrast between our frames here. Let's go ahead and now set up all the frames we'll need for our project. So if I go back to my sketch that I had here, you'll see we have 7 pages that we need. So let's go ahead and set up those pages with the appropriate names, and then jump into designing our login page. So again, you create new frames by pressing F on your keyboard. So we know we're designing for a mobile mockup. Why don't we go ahead and just choose the iPhone 11 Pro? This tends to fit a lot of the new iPhone sizes as well. I'm just gonna make my background slightly lighter. I think that's good. So let's go ahead and create 7 of these pages. So the easiest way to create multiple frames from one that you already have set up is just to duplicate it by pressing Command D or Control D if you're on Windows. So I know we have a total of 7 pages, so I'll need to do this 6 more times. So let's create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we have a mockup with 7 pages. Let's go ahead and use the zoom option here and do zoom to fit. What this will do is just go ahead and just zoom out until we can see all of our frames. You can also press Shift 1 to toggle this zoom option from anywhere you are. So if I press Shift 1, you can see it will zoom to fit right there too. It's pretty handy. Let's go ahead and rename all of our frames and then jump into starting our first login page. So to rename frames or layers, you can either double click here. So we can do login. Now you can see it's changed here. Or we can just go here in our layers panel and let's do tutorial. This one will be payment. This one will be map. This is going to be our main. Or let's actually name it request. Then we have our profile. Last but not least, we have our services page. Let's just go ahead and double check that we didn't miss anything here. So login, tutorial, payment, map, request, profile, and services / past requests. I think we got everything here. So now let's go ahead and just focus on our login page. Another neat way to zoom in is just to hold the Z key on your keyboard and then go ahead and just drag over the area you want to zoom into, and that will zoom in like that. So going back to our login page, we'll need a bunch of rectangles, specifically one for the email, one for password, one for the login, and 2 for the sign up buttons here. So that's a total of 5 rectangles. Let's go ahead and create those and try to distribute them accordingly. So you can create rectangles by pressing R, as we learned in the previous sections. Let's go ahead and just drag one here. I think height of 55 would be nice. And then just go ahead and let go. I'm using Alt here just to see how it's positioned here. Let's just go ahead and nudge down the size here to make it 325, just so it's evenly spaced between the left and the right. I'm going to use Shift R to bring my ruler back, and then I'm going to add some guides on my left and right just to make things easier going forward. So I'm going to use Command D 4 times to duplicate this rectangle. One neat way to duplicate things is to again hold Alt and then drag away this rectangle. So let's use the arrow keys to just bring it down 3 pixels here. And then if you press Command D, it will actually go ahead and replicate that same type of duplicate and move that I did there. So let's do it 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. And now we have 5 fields or buttons here that we can use. Let's move these bottom 2 closer to the bottom. Let's move this one a little bit down. Let's go ahead and add some styling to these fields here. Let's make the fill white and then add a stroke of, I'm going to make it slightly, I think right here is good. If you want to get the exact same stroke color, go ahead and just input this hex key into your color picker for the stroke. Let's go ahead and just make it 1.5 pixels just so we can see it more easily. Select them again. And let's go ahead and round the corners to 8 pixels using here. Actually, let's do 6. I think that looks good. Let's apply the same corner radius to all of these. Again, you can hold multiple objects using Shift. Let's go ahead and add some text using the T key. Let's add a text right here and type in email. Just center that along here, and then let's just stretch it all the way through. I think that's good enough. I'm just going to duplicate it by holding Alt. And let's do password. For now, don't worry too much about the fonts and the colors because we'll come back to that in the future lessons. Right now, we're just trying to get the basics set up. Let's go ahead and duplicate this text here down to our button. And you can center the text using this option here where it says text align center. Let's make it log in. Let's do that 2 more times for our sign up with email. And lastly, sign up with Google. If I go back to my design, we have a little line here to just distinguish between the login and then the sign up sections. So let's go back and we can do a line by pressing L and just draw one right from the left side of my guide to the right one. The beautiful things about guides is that when you're getting close to them, they will snap right into place just to make sure that you have the right size for your object. One thing to also note is that when you're drawing your line, just to make sure that you're not going at weird angles here, hold shift and it will help you keep things at the straight angle position, and let go here. And we have our line here. Just gonna make it a little bit lighter. Let's do the same C9, C9, C9. I'm just typing this in here and I think that looks good. Let's make it 1.5 in thickness. So I see here that it's actually 2 lines, one on the left, one on the right. So why don't we go ahead and duplicate that here. And then I'm gonna just drag one while holding shift again to the middle, and the other one to the middle as well. So now essentially I have 2 lines. So why don't we go ahead and use our properties panel here to get the exact sizes that we're going for here. So why don't we bring this down to 145. I think that's too little. Let's do 135. And then for this one, let's go ahead and also make it 135. And then I'm going to use shift and then the arrow keys just to move things quickly. The shift and arrow keys help you move shapes or objects by 10 pixels at a time. Otherwise, if you just use the arrow keys, it will do 1 pixel at a time. So feel free to use the shift and arrow keys when you need to move things up quickly, or use the arrow key to just move things down pixel by pixel. Let's go ahead and line those up here. There we go. And let's add another text by just duplicating this one in here, making it a little bit smaller. Type in or. Go ahead and just drag that in the middle. Cool, so now we're getting the basics going. If you go back to our sketch, we're still missing the logo. We're still missing terms. We don't have a background image or the tutorial icon here. So we'll come back in the next lesson to actually complete our login page here. All right, so if you've been following along so far, we started designing our login page here. By the way, if you haven't followed along in the last couple lessons, something you can do, whether in this lesson or in future lessons, you can go to the mockups over here in the resources file of this design project that we're working on. And then you'll see, according to the lesson, the latest file, the latest Figma file we worked on in that lesson. So go ahead and get started with this if you haven't already. Otherwise, just head back into your Figma file and continue along. In this lesson, we're going to explore how we can add images and actually go ahead and add a background image as well as our logo from the Clean Kangaroo app right here as well. So in general, whenever you're designing a project and you're looking for photos to use, I highly recommend Unsplash here. They're, as they say, the internet source of freely usable images. So all the images that you search are free to use. I use this for some of my projects and I highly recommend you to go check it out and see if there's an image in there that you want to use for your future projects. So I've used Unsplash to actually download an image. So to find that image, go to the resources folder of this project that we're working on. And again, you can find that at the very beginning of this section. So go ahead and open images, find the login page, and then you'll notice there's a background image in here. So let's go ahead and switch over to Figma while having our folder here. So this background's JPEG. Figma allows you to import JPEG, PNG, SVG, and even PDF. And the easiest way to do so is just to go ahead and drag your image right into your Figma file. This image is huge, so it takes some time to load. You'll notice that it's completely going outside of the frame. So what I'm going to do is actually hold Shift and Alt, and then go ahead and resize it. By now, you probably know what Shift does. It will keep the proportion so the image doesn't get distorted. But what Alt does is actually helps us keep the position or the centerness of this picture so that when I resize it, it's not going to the corner there. Otherwise, if I let go of Alt and only hold Shift, as you can see, it's way off my frame. So that's why we're using Shift and Alt. I think that's good right here. Let's go ahead and just bring it down, and let's actually zoom in a little bit more. I think that's good for now. One thing to mention is that you can crop images because, as you can see, the image is huge and it's covering more space than it needs to. So let's go and choose the crop tool from up here. And once we're in the crop tool, we can go ahead and just move these blue corners here, and that will help us get the size that we need. I think that looks good. It's fitting perfectly. You can also access more image tools here as well. You can edit all of these when you go here to the right and click on this image tool. And from there, you can tweak your crop if you made a mistake and you want to change it now. Or you can do things such as improve the contrast, saturation, temperature, just kind of simple image editing tools that you'll get in a lot of the design applications. You can also rotate the image from here as well. One thing to mention here is that right now we have crop selected because that's how we cropped our image. But if we do fill, so what fill will do is try to go ahead and put that image within that bounding box that we have right now. If we do fit, it will try to proportionally do the same thing. So because this image originally is in this proportion, it will try to keep that in the fit type over here. You could do tile if you want to do multiple. So this is really big, but if I do, let's say 2% or 3%, essentially have this image repeat itself. That might work for like maybe a background of patterns, but for this case, I think crop will do the job. So let's just use crop and then close this over here. Now you'll notice my background image is covering everything else. So let's select the background image here, bring it all the way down. And now it's right underneath all my layers here, which is what I want. I also want to add an overlay on top of this image so that the foreground over here doesn't blend with the background that we have. To add an overlay, go to where it says fill. You'll see right now it's image. Make sure to have the image selected, by the way. Then go ahead and hit the plus icon in fill. And right now it's giving us a gradient. So if you want to add a gradient to your image, you can do that. But I want to just go ahead and choose solid over here. The overlay is on top of our picture, but we can't see anything. So let's bring the opacity down so we can see parts of the image. And let's go ahead and choose a darker color. We go black, and then now the opacity is way too high here. So let's do maybe 50%. I think that's good. So there you have it. We've added our image to the background here. Now let's go ahead and add our logo. So again, from the resources section, you'll see we have a logo folder over here. Let's go ahead and drag this colored one here. And let's just go ahead and use Shift Alt and resize that again. I think maybe 80 by 80 should be good. Just gonna zoom in here a little bit. And let's use the horizontal align center over here, which is the second option in the alignment tools. And that will automatically center your image inside of your frame. I'm going to bump it up a little bit, maybe add a spacing of 70 to the top. And then using T, I'm going to add text for my logo. Let's do clean kangaroo. And then make sure you select everything and then bump the text size to 26. And I think that looks good. Change the fill to white here. And just go ahead and center that along with the logo here. I think that looks good. Now you might have noticed that everything's kind of floating around on their own. Nothing's really related here. And what Figma allows us to do in the layers is to group things that are relevant together, so that if we make changes to them or if you want to move them around, for example, let's say I want to move this email field, instead of just moving the box and then moving the text, I can just go ahead and group them together and move them together, or apply styles together and all sorts of different things. So to do so, select your rectangle, while holding shift, select your text. Now you can see that I have both selected because both have this little blue tinted background. Use Command G or Control G on Windows to group things together. And let's do the same for password. For the login button over here. And then let's do the same thing for the separator we have over here. Sign up with email. Sign up with Google. I think everything's grouped together except for my logo here. So let's do the same thing here as well. And let's go ahead and rename all of these. You can rename groups by just double clicking on the layers panel here. So let's do logo. And let's go ahead and just kind of follow convention here to add a hierarchy that makes sense. So let's go ahead and first place our group 1 and then our group 2, which is the password, group 3, 4, 5, 6, and then let's rename the rest. Email, password, login button, divider, and let's do sign up email button, sign up Google, button, and then let's just go ahead and name this our background, and actually let's lock it in place as well so we don't accidentally move it around. Cool. I think that looks good for now. Now we know how to add images. Let's come back and add some icons because as you can see in my sketches here, I have some icons for the tutorial, for the email and password. And then we'll add the rest of the stuff for the login page and then go ahead and finish it up in the next lesson.